Welcome to the 7th episode of MD's Levrone Report. And Ron, boy, do we have a lineup today, brother.
Dude. We had a bunch of Mr. Olympia champions, and we were both thinking, how could we possibly outdo Ronnie, Jay, Dory, and Brandon? But this is it, man. These are, in many people's minds, the 4 greatest men who never won a Mr. Olympia title, but should have. Each and every one of you right here today. If you had told me in 1995 that none of you guys would ever win the Olympia, I would have said, what are you smoking? Are you kidding me? Kevin Levrone, Shawn Ray, Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier. These guys are all incredible competitors. You're all Mr. Olympia runner-ups, or you've been very high up. And yeah, this is crazy. You guys were the superstars of the 90s and early 2000s.
Well, Ron, I got to kind of like step aside because these guys, right? I mean, we're amazing group of athletes that competed together. We became friends throughout so many years, and like, brothers from another mother and everything. And I called each and every one of them up, and I was like, and he never hesitated to say, you know what, Kev, I'm in. Shawn, like, I'm in. Flex was like, I'm in. Chris was like, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's make this thing happen. So I want to say thank you guys, man, so much for allowing you the time. I know you're all busy. Y'all got a lot of things going on, but I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the MD Levrone Report.
Kevin, the check really helped incentivize us all being here today. Thank you. I got mine. I know Flex and Chris got theirs, so we appreciate you.
Still a shit starter after all these years.
I know, right?
Thank you,
Kevin. It'd be cool. Tell us how you met each and every one of these guys for the first time.
Well,
be comfortable.
I think I'm going to start off with Flex first because I just heard this big bang. I'm like, whoa, what happened? It was this loud noise backstage at the Nationals.
Oh, dude, really?
Yeah, he threw his trophy up against the wall when I ended up placing ahead of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
He slammed it and broke it up against the wall. So that was like the drama from day one. Yeah, the drama from day one.
Did you talk to him at that time?
So Kevin, what you said is you didn't notice me.
I was afraid to talk to him. I was afraid to talk to him for probably about 6 or 7 years.
You didn't notice me on stage, or anything. The only time you noticed me is backstage after you already whooped my ass. All right. Cool, bro. Right on.
Yeah. Because, no, it wasn't like that.
Is that when you had the ponytail?
The ponytail.
Yeah. I was thinking, what did I do to piss him off, man? So
Chris was in the audience.
Yep. Yeah. Then I turned pro and I went and Helsinki.
Wait a minute.
Finland.
What year was that? 91?
Yeah.
That was 91.
Yeah. You were there, Chris.
Man, I took 7. Yep. I'm in the audience. Yeah. I'm on stage with y'all. What the hell?
I'm trying to pay it forward what Kevin did to you, and
remember, I went back to
Kevin
the room.
did to me.
No,
and act like I didn't know you.
No, remember I went back to that room, and I went back to the room, and I'd seen Kevin at the damn weigh-in. Now we went back to the room. I was like, Flex. I was like,
I remember what you said. You said, Flex, you my boy, man. You look great, but Kevin, man, bro, look like a prizzo.
Already.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met
already, man. I said, I don't know about this one, dog. I was like, man. So anyway, we had plans to win this, but
hold up.
And then that's when LQ Gurley and them was talking mess in the room next door. Remember, Flex?
Yeah, but you know what? I gotta say, Kevin won that show fair and square, man. He was ahead of all of us. And that was a hell of a lineup. You guys remember Mac Mendenhall, Ronnie Coleman? That was a heated show, man.
Quadzilla was in there.
Yeah.
And I ran into the pretty boy, Shawn Ray, the guy that was riding around in with the Ferrari and stuff and everything. And the Rolls Royces, and I'm like, man, how does this guy get all this money? I want to be like that.
After.
So
good friend.
Him in Helsinki, Finland. We met at the
92
Mr. Olympia for the first time. I saw Shawn backstage, and in person. But unfortunately, I mean, he was a huge inspiration and everything, because I saw him win the nationals. I saw that video of him posing on stage to Jennifer Holliday. You had on the yellow trunks, right, Shawn?
Right.
That presentation was unbelievable, and
Oh yeah,
I followed him. Yeah, through the magazines, and I was like, wow, you know. And I kind of connected with him because him and I were, you know, light skinned and everything, and so.
Oh wow! Is that what we're doing? Is that what we're doing?
That's the brother. That's the brotherhood.
That's what we're doing.
No, we're not doing that flex fly. Yeah, I mean, I just, you know. Well, I mean,
I yellow.
Flex had broke his trophy up, so I don't know why he was mad at me. So, but anyway, that's how Shawn and I ran into each other and everything. So we
Just a side note to that, Kevin. What's crazy about that '87 Nationals, which put me on the map before you guys. I mean, I had already met Flex by then, and Chris won Teenage Cal the same year. I won the Cal that year. But what happened at that show hasn't happened again. Remember, at the national level, you only had 90 seconds to do your night routine. You can go back on any landscape and look at the time on that YouTube performance. That performance was 3 minutes and 23 seconds. They didn't turn my music down, and they weren't going to take me off stage. I posed from the first note to the last note on that song. And I think that really resonated because it gave me double the airtime that the other athletes had. And I was, besides Phil Hill and Vince Taylor, I think we were one of the 3 guys that actually had bona fide, full-blown posing routines. And I got real lucky that they let the music play. I got more stage time.
But
right,
in the pro ranks,
you guys actually, other than, you know, the pros at that time, right? You guys actually were performers, and, you know, I got to say, you know, regardless of how competitive we all were, and all 4 of us became great posers and noted, you know, artistic posers. I got to say that I had influences becoming a great poser because I wasn't one before, and you and John Brown before you and Vince Taylor, but you know, you kind of really started it and made it an artistic, a performance, you know, like people would shut up and watch. So I became, you know, a great poser, and but I emulated you. You were the first. I wasn't the first, you know, and then, you know, watching Chris, you know, I always hated to watch Chris pose because I felt we were different type of posers. I was kind of more of an entertainer. I could always hit my poses properly, but I was more of an entertainer. Chris was just an artist of striking poses. You know, you would call Chris somebody like a sniper because the poses he did were so classic and on point. I just hated it. And then finally, you know, Kevin, truth is, you know, when Kevin turned pro, he wasn't that great of a poser, but watching him, you know, I told him this many times before, once he became a performer with his own band, Full Blown, I think he really, you know, kind of blossomed in, having to be put up front in front of his band and sing. And then I effing hated Kevin posing, man, because he freaking took his time.
Yeah, slow.
You know, worked the songs, man. He started communicating with the audience, and only real posers know what I'm talking about, but he started communicating with the audience through his posing, through his connection and looking at the audience and engaging them. And I effing hated him, man. If I had a gun, I would have shot him in the face every time he was on stage. You know, because the reason why I say that is because he was doing damage. He was doing damage, and he was making it harder or impossible for me to win based on his performance. So it's just, it's great that, you know, also all 4 of us rightfully so deserve a Mr. Olympia. You know, I think, you know, in due time, before we all pass away, they need to give us an honorary, you know, Mr. Olympia.
While we on this side.
You know, I mean, you know, just like, what is it, 40 acres, a mule, and, you know, they need to give us something. But anyway, other than that, you know, I just want to say we all changed the game in posing in our own various different ways once we blossomed. And, you know, one of my greatest accolades was, you know, Lila Brada, who was just artistic on a whole different level of posing, right? Back when people weren't really doing that, you know, to have him walk up to me and say, "You're still carrying a torch for us," you know, so it's just acknowledgement. I think for all 4 of you, when you have a youngster walk up to you guys and say, "Hey man, you lit that torch for me. It just makes you feel good, you know, because you looked up to these guys.
Yeah, I think also Kevin's hand gesture was deadly.
Yeah.
Like this dude, like Michael Jackson, just throw a little hand movement out there, and then just play and just look at that hand and look at it and play with that hand. And what was that you came out to? And he just totally blew me away with this one when he came out in England. What was that song you came out to? That rock, not rock. It was like a punk rock song.
You talking about Rage Against the Machine? Maybe?
Yeah, like nobody was coming out with stuff like that, but you came out there like I don't remember how that song went, but it was popping, man.
Which one was it Bulls on Parade or
no, it's Killing in the Name
Killing
of.
in the Name of?
It was
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
You know, with a song that killed me with Kevin, and I told him this before, is I can't remember the song, but I was always conscious of using like, you know, West Coast back then was a flavor, you know, we used West Coast style and hardcore rap and all of that, but I was always, you know, conscious of not using the profanity version. And Kevin was one of the first ones who walked out and got away with it. I mean, it was that one song, I can't remember, I know Kevin remembered, but every once in a while in the song, I'd be like,
why are you this when I tell my pet? Everybody was saying I'm done. And then Kevin like, do I look like I'm done? Fuck that.
Yeah, and then the next time he's coming out to Kirk Franklin. Kevin was all over the map. He's all over the map, man.
Oh God.
Hold on. Did you guys know that he made up every routine on the spot?
So did I.
Wow, that's
I
incredible.
think a lot of guys.
I
I
think
think a lot of us worked on our posing and we improv'd as we went along.
Because you know, if the crowd cheering for more, you got to give them more.
You got to give them more. You got to make it seamless.
Chris, you know, I never got to watch Kevin practice. I got to watch Shawn practice a few times, but me and Chris spent more time watching each other practice. And, you know, we both know we would spend anywhere from an hour, you know, five days a week, 5 weeks out from a show. We'd spend hours in a posing room. Yeah. And one of the things I would do is I would just put a CD in and I would sit there while Chris and Rico were in the room critiquing me. I would try to flow the entire hour to that DVD. And and every time I did it, it would be a completely different routine. But like Chris said, and I think we all know, when the crowd is into a pose, you might have to hold that thing a tenth of a second longer. If you're at a tempo of a song, you're screwed. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think a true artist or anybody, a fighter, is improv. You know, we might have an ideal and our powerful poses, but if we understand a song, we can hit that pose anytime we want through that a song, whether it's a 2-beat, a 3-beat, or we change it to a 10-beat because we're doing now different things in between poses. That's just normal. And I think that's the sign of a great poser. Now, I'm not against anyone who has a hardcore where they just lock in their pose and they hit it to the music, but you can't really appeal to the crowd when you do that, you know, because you might have some woman just scream, you know, and then you want to turn around, you want to look at her, acknowledge her, wink or something like that and continue flowing. But if you're on beats, you're screwed. You're going to be like, you know, and we still so many times. So, I love making my routine up on stage. It was just great, man.
You can see some people, they choreograph the routine and they get locked in on it, make the wrong turn, miss that note. And then they're like a deer in a headlight. You can see it. Everything falls apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shawn,
There's so many times where I almost slipped or I almost failed or something. It's a few times I was going into the splits and I would fall, almost stumble or something like that. But, you know, being that I was just used to, okay, just change it up, you know, change my 10 count now to a 5 count, grab that beat again. You know what I mean? So,
guys, since we're on the topic of posing routines and our great moments and everything, because I mean, Flex, that's your style. Chris, you found your style. Shawn Ray, you obviously found your style. You know, you're a mentor to all three of us. I mean, you know, as much as we might go at it here and there, I think all of us had our issues, you know, with you at some time and point, but the respect level is up high. Who has Shawn? Because like Flex said, you know, you came in, you taught us, you showed us, even, you know, when the stage lights and everything went off, you know, you were still there for us. So that being said, what I want to start with you, Shawn, and then you guys can go afterwards. The question I have, Shawn, is when you think of Shawn Ray, I think class, I think, you know, posing, presentation. We've gotten away from that. And in our sport, you know, bodybuilding and everything, the IFBB. How important do you think that was? And do you think that they should bring that back? And do you think that that might have an impact on the fact that, you know, there's hard to probably figure out where the legends or who the legends are going to be down the road?
I think it's like music and fashion. What's new, what's old today will be new sometime again. We think we lived through the greatest era in our time, and we could say the same about basketball. When we saw Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas back in those days, we thought we were looking at the very best. We'll never see the same again. And you fast forward a little bit, and you see Allen Iverson, you see Kobe Bryant, and then you fast forward, you now see like LeBron and some other people. It's cyclical. I mean, we don't see it right now, but remember, I came behind a masterful poser in John Brown, and then there was Lee Labrada, and prior to that, there was Muhammad McAway, and we didn't have social media, so we had to find ways to learn this stuff. And then you guys coming up behind me were looking at what I was doing, taking it and making it your own, elevating the bar. We all knew we were going to show up. And when it came to the posing routines, we were all going to watch each other. So we were aware of our audience, and we wanted to give them a show. We knew that all of us, I think, learned at a very rapid time in our career, because we all come from literally teenage bodybuilders, that all you have at the end of the day is your posing routine. The prejudging is where it's really won and lost, but you win your audience at the routine round. I think we all had that knowledge of it. And yes, as the gargantuan big sizes, everything comes in, these guys wouldn't spend an hour, like Flex said, working on their mandatory poses. They wouldn't care if it was elevator music or any music playing, because they're only going to pose for 30 seconds. I mean, they know the contest is scored. It doesn't matter what they do on the posing round because they're not counting it. And none of these guys were elevating the bar, holding each other accountable, or even talking about posing. We all kind of paid attention. I mean, I could hear a song. I could see you posing the Creed. I mean, I could see Flex Wheeler up there with LL Cool J, and I could see Chris doing a very bad imitation of Michael Jackson at Mandalay Bay. There's a lot of songs that are very signature when you hear them. No, but you hear the songs, and they take you back to a place in time. I mean, we can say the same thing to some of our favorite music, but as a bodybuilder, I hear music and I can associate it with some of my idols coming up, because they took the time out to do that. The bodybuilders today can't. I can't tell you what Rami posed to this past year. I can't tell you what Brandon Curry posed to the year before, or Sean Roden, or all 7 of Phil Heath's victories at the Olympia. But I was there. Now, I can tell you literally all the songs you guys posed to. Even when I was losing, I can tell you what kind of music you guys posed to, what songs. And it definitely stirs up an imagery that you guys paid attention, and it mattered to you what you did on the performance side. Yeah, we all wanted. I didn't throw a trophy like Flex did, and we were all passionate about trying to win. But look, we were losing to the best. When Flex lost to you at the Nationals, look at what you did with your career. Your first Olympia, you were second place, and then one day down the road, that was going to be Flex. One day down the road, Chris was going to be up there having a sniff at the Olympia title. I mean, we were aware on how important posing was, because we were taught that coming out of the box. The guys today, posing doesn't count, posing doesn't matter. And I don't think that they really have an appreciation for what the audience thinks, because you see them walking back, holding the ear. You started this, Kevin, holding their hand to their ear, but there's no design to their routine. There's no connection to the audience. And it really is just about getting through it as fast as they can. Sad.
Chris,
I don't know. It may come back around one day.
Chris, you work with athletes. You know, you travel all over the globe working with athletes, and I know, you know, you and I had a few sessions in there, and I know how technical you can be. Is this something that you cover with your athletes that you're training, or you just learn about training them? Do you talk to them about the presentations? For sure,
that's really important, and that's one of the things I do. That we do the training. Like when I do my camps, that's part of what we do. We go through transitions, we go through having them follow me, where I join in and I go, and they just follow me as I go. And just to get that mentality about being able to just pose on the spot. Like I guarantee you, each one of us can just throw some poses together and it's gonna look great. It's gonna look great because we've done it a million times before. And a lot of times you know, what's great about us getting together and doing this is that we can throw around these ideas that we can like share with the next generation how things really were. And I really want them to know exactly how the history is and was, and how what's important and the values that we took to heart. You know, we would go through great lengths just to get a massage, or to get a posing lesson, or even to be around one of each other. I know Flex did. I know I did. I know Shawn did. You know, we spent we dedicated our life to this thing, basically. And I want to say one thing about Flex. Guarantee you, when I went out there and I did my routine in '99, I think Flex was right after me, I believe. I know he put a little extra something.
Oh, you know he did.
Because I could. I was looking, I said, I know he didn't plan that shit when he got here, but now he put some extra mustard on that little something he was doing.
Right.
What were you doing?
Well, we all watched each other.
Am I right?
Flex,
Yeah.
Flex, we saw, you're in California. You guys were in California at Venice Beach at the Mecca, training and everything. And I always saw Charles Glass coming in, and there was those pictures that, I don't know who took these pictures, but they're floated around in the Weider magazines. You guys back there in the posing room, they had a posing room. And I mean, how long out from the Olympia or your shows would you start practicing posing? And did that become part of your weekly routine with your training with Charles Glass? Because when you stepped on stage, your presentations were like, I told you, you're one of my best performers I've ever seen. But I think it was you, Chris,
Kevin, Rico, I gotta say that too.
And you
what
guys
Chris is saying,
were in there, yeah. So
I gotta hone in what Chris was about to say. Some of that or all of that was staged. Charles was very instrumental in our training, but he had nothing to do with our posing whatsoever. Those were just fun. And I know Chris was about to say that. For me, to answer your question, of course, Chris, every time, whenever any of you went before me, like Shawn said, I watched you, and I couldn't wait for you to get, any of you guys to get your butts off stage so I can go in there and try to erase the memory of you being on stage, right? As a champion, right? Love all you guys, right? But what I wanted to do, if I had to go after you guys, I wanted to erase the memory in everyone's mind that you ever were on stage. Wow. And if I went before, right? If I went before you guys, I wanted to try and set such a stage that people are like, I'm done, I'm out, I don't even want to see nobody else, right? And we've all seen people do that. As far as answering your question, Kevin, like I said, me and Rico and Chris, we were pretty fierce against each other. And when I mean that, we had a true friendship where we would break each other's hearts or feelings in a second. And that's what friends do. Now, I've said this a million times, and I want to say it again. In my opinion, a lot of people thought I was a leader because I would win a show before Chris, or maybe I would place better than Chris. Yeah, and I turned pro before Chris. But in my mind, always, Rico was our leader. He never turned pro. He wasn't as strong as Chris was, and then Rico was the strongest, and then I was last. But in my heart, always, Rico was a leader because he was more calm-minded than us. When we would critique each other, we're all hard. Sometimes Rico would just look at me like, man, you look like crap. You need to go do cardio. And he'd walk off.
He said you were
walked out the room. He knew that if he stayed in the room, I'm going to try to engage him and we're going to fight, right? He knew that. So he would the worst thing he could do to me is turn his back on me and walk away, because now, what am I going to do with this fury? That was his maturity, right? Chris, if me and Chris said something to each other, everybody, including Hill, would have to stand in the way, because we're going to lock irons and something's going to happen. And I guarantee you somebody's going to the hospital. I remember one time Chris threw a dumbbell at me, because we were so mad. But it wasn't a lack of friendship. We were just so engaged. And I have to say, right, out of the three, we were the two most immature, because like Rico said, he hit me in the mouth harder than any other person could. And it was with words. He just looked at me and he said, Flex, I don't fight my friends. and he turned his back on me and walked away.
Oh yeah,
So-
I remember that. He said,
Yeah.
and he would always
but
say, he said that multiple times because multiple things would happen. You're like, friends don't fight.
Yeah.
He's like,
There was
"Friends
one
don't
time
fight."
we were at your house, Chris, and I won't talk about, what it was, but I was like, dude, we need to get into it right now over this situation. And Chris looked at me, Rico looked at me, and, respectfully, what I don't even think he knew it. I don't even really think we knew it consciously. But as he played his video game, he looked at Chris, you're wrong, Flex, you're right. You guys don't need to fight, y'all friends. And kept playing. And that was it. And honestly, not being aware of it, the respect that he commanded quietly, we shut down and we didn't fight. You know what I mean? But to get back to your question, sorry, I just really need to acknowledge Rico and what he was to me and our posse. But
Oh yeah.
I would make it a routine. Chris would make it a routine. Now on the other end, Rico never would go in the pose room with us. We would have to fight, cuss Rico out and everything. He would never pose for us. But me and Chris, like clockwork, would go in there about 5 weeks out for a show, and we would spend every day in there posing.
Flex, let me give a little perspective on what you're saying, because Kevin, what you didn't realize, and I know you were on the East Coast, and I don't know where you were drawing your motivation from, because the magazines took 3 months to get out, but I would make the drive 45 minutes to Gold's, pop in, do my training, go to Firehouse, walk on the boardwalk, come back, and Rico, Flex, Paul, and Charles, they're still in there working out. They looked like they were having fun, but it was an impenetrable bubble that I had to look at from around the room, from up on the cardio, knowing I couldn't get in that group. Like I never trained with Flex, Chris, Paul, and Rico and Charles ever at the same time. I trained with Flex, I trained with Chris, but I never got in that bubble. I never got into that rotation. And I was going all the time. They'd see me coming. I parked my car up in the front. These guys to me were like they were like a gang. They were like that. They were the LA gang. I represented the OC, and I'm telling you, we were lucky we didn't have any weapons. If there were any sharp objects, I swear Flex would have picked it up and used it. Because Flex was Debo from Friday. Real quiet, but if you get him fired up, you don't know what he's capable of doing. And he's already made it clear he was going to come to my house, knock on my door, open it because I live alone, knock me out, beat up my face because he knew he could do that. Flex's mind would go places that I would never even think about going, but he's that competitive. I never could get into that circle that Rico, Flex, and Chris had, which is another thing, because when I look back, Flex was the guy that helped me move into my apartment when I moved to Marina Del Rey back in 1988. Chris was the guy that saw me in high school and decided like, hey, I want to be like this guy. I want to be a bodybuilder. And then they both wound up at the 1990 Ironman watching me do my thing. And in their minds, they're like blown away, but they know one day they'll do it. Of course, Flex went on to win 4 or 5. Chris went on to win 4 or 5. And now we're all on this. Yes. What? No, who won 6? Nobody won 6.
Chris,
Nobody won.
No. Okay.
Nobody won 6.
It was a lot.
No.
But what I'm saying is I was here. And as they slowly caught up here maturity wise, because Chris was strong, Flex was bigger, eventually they were going to be here. And now we're going to be going like this our entire career. But throughout that entire decade, I never could penetrate that bubble that Chris, Rico, and Flex, and Paul Dillette, and Charles Glass had, which is why when I went back to Orange County, I felt like it was me against the world. They had each other in their downtime. They had the video games. They would eat. They would hang out and go to parties. They all worked at Roxbury's. It was me against all 3 of these guys. I'm thinking, what the hell did I create?
That was everybody.
And you know what?
You elevated my game.
It was us against everybody, though.
Yeah, let me say this, and then I'd love to hear you guys' comments on all of it. But to address what you said, Shawn, you would have been more than welcome. But honestly, you were I won't say feared, right? But it was like an uncomfortable presence. But if you ever would have just walked in and say, hey, can I get down with you guys? We would have opened you up.
I know you would have swallowed me up is what you would have done. You guys would have
not me. I wasn't that type of person training wise, right? I wasn't that type of person.
No, I know that. Right.
Yeah. But But what I was going to say is, yeah, we went in the room and we trained, and it was be many times where Chris and Rico would just break my feelings because I wasn't one of those guys normally who looked great 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out from the show. For whatever reason, I just held a tonnage of water, and Chris could attribute to it that I mean, you would think I would go to the hospital afterwards because no one could lose that much water in an hour and still be healthy, but the entire room would be saturated, just dripping with water and everything. But I would, you know, and coming out of that, I'd agree that I was a little hot-headed, but I always wanted to protect my boys. And Shawn, the first time we ever met when you came to Fresno, remember, I didn't even know you, but you came to Fresno because I told them to bring you as a guest poser, and you know, something almost happened, and you didn't even have to say a word. I stood in front of you and said, let's make it happen. You didn't even have to, you were not going to be touched at all. So that's just me as a person. And even though Rico was a leader and none of us had a problem with fighting. So as far as a gang, you're right. Because we always looked at it. Me, Rico, and Chris, come in. You might train hard. You might move around a little weight. But if you go too far, we're going to step to you and we're going to make it happen. And we always looked at it as you might be stronger than one of us, but you ain't stronger than all of us. And you don't want to fight none of us, right?
Nobody will.
The last thing is I remember it was something happened and at Roxbury, and this guy came in with like 3 other cats. Me, Rico, and Chris were training legs, and he came with 3 other cats and his girl. And Rico is doing a leg press, and this dude is hovering over him. I don't know who he is. I'm looking like, what? Yeah. And man, I just lit up like a candle. But the dude was like talking crazy. Rico, just that and other, like he wanted to get in with him. I'm like, don't he see me and Chris right here? Like, do he think really? And his boys, we looked at his boys like, you don't want it, dude. Just look away, you know.
Didn't he go up on the bike or something like that? Wasn't he up on the bike?
Yeah. And the dude kept talking crap, and he stood up, and Rico stood up, and Rico was still, I mean, it took a lot to get Rico heated. If the only way you're gonna get Rico heated is if you touch him or you call him the N-word, it's a wrap. He's gonna put his hands on you. There ain't nobody, other than that, it's very little that you could get him to fight. So he stood up, and Rico's being nonchalant, and this dude is like accusing Rico of calling his girl the B word. And he's going on, and Rico's being really calm. And I think it's because Rico always knew he could handle himself. And it's not that I didn't know I could handle myself. I was just wired different. But there was a very calm presence about Rico. Like, if it goes there, you're not going to like it, but I don't need to let you know that. But anyway, to get on with the story. So this dude is just getting loud. And I think he's reading into Rico's emotion that Rico's so calm that Rico's a punk. So he's getting louder and feeling himself. And he keeps saying that Rico called his girl a B and apologized. I'm like, and Rico's like, I didn't call your girl a B, man. I'm not apologizing. So I stood up. I'm like, dude, what the F? What, is this your girl? Bitch, now what you gonna do? Bitch. Do, okay?
I remember that.
I was like, now what are you gonna do about it? I just called her a bitch, and she's looking at me like, why are you calling me a bitch? I'm like, because he's saying it's a big deal, bitch. Now what are you gonna do? Right?
Unlike.
But anyway, that was me. But I was just, I'm very protective of my friends. I'm very protective of my family. And I can say that for those two, they would do the same for me. But it's almost, you would trigger one of us to get angrier if you went at one of our boys. If you came directly at me, I'm not going to go directly at you. For some reason, I'll probably kind of play the lesser tone until you get me heated. But if you went at one of my boys and my friends, I'm going to heat up a lot quicker than I would normally. So anyway.
Yeah, and I think, Kevin, it was also a time where, remember, Gold's Gym isn't what it was today. Gold's Gym, you walk in there. A lot
of fighting in there.
Yeah, there are people, the Barbarian brothers getting kicked out. Your boy Titus, Melvin Anthony, a lot of people got in fights.
I got kicked out.
Yeah, the gym just wasn't big enough, right? And I would go there and I would leave. I'd do my work and I would leave. These guys would be in there, and a lot of your friends were there. And then a lot of migrants came in there, right? You had Matarazzo, you had Bob Chase. You had a lot of people coming from other places into Gold's Gym. And this was your guys' home. This was Flex and Chris's gym. So I was there to bodybuild, right? Like I wanted to
So-
lift weights and get out. It'd take a lot to
Sean,
keep me upset.
did you feel? Did you feel uncomfortable going in
No,
there? I mean,
no.
So why did you even go to a place that it seems like
It wasn't always. It wasn't always.
Flex was
lot
a
of
bully,
acrimony.
no doubt. Flex was.
No.
a
Would
bully,
you say I
okay?
was a bully? What?
Yeah, you're straight up bully. So I'm no wonder you felt uncomfortable, Sean. I
Hey,
would have too.
my son Darius is over here quiet, man.
Listen,
It's
it
not-
wasn't a
bully.
lot of. It wasn't a lot
Yeah.
of acrimony in the gym. Don't get it twisted.
I can't believe you
Everybody
called me
was
a
there.
bully.
Everyone was there bodybuilding, but there was a lot of testosterone in Gold's Gym, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
hot chicks. A lot of hot
Yeah.
chicks.
No, I gotta tell you, Shawn was always welcome there, and I always felt because I met Shawn and I seen Shawn there before me.
Mhm.
So, but I will say that once me and Chris and Rico linked up, not
And remember,
that-
I moved away. Go ahead.
yeah, you moved away too. We just felt like it was our house,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when you came in there, you were our guest,
and I felt
don't
like
get
I was a visitor in my own gym.
Yeah, and
Like,
it was your
because
own gym, right?
over.
Because
Yeah.
I remember
was
when
over
I
2
came, I would
years.
drive down. I would drive down from Fresno all the time, and I'd see Shawn's car parked there with S. Ray on the damn license plate.
Yeah, man.
Hey, you know, hey Flex, you know what would make me mad is that I knew Shawn, like I say, since we were in high school.
You knew him
Wow.
before all of us.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I didn't like when we're 5 weeks out from the show that we all
Yeah.
doing, and I felt like Shawn would purposely put on these white tights so you can see striations through his glutes. Striations in his glutes already.
Yeah.
And his face is
Cheekbones.
already in. His
I
cheekbones
used to wonder.
I'm
I
like,
used
look at
to
this
wonder,
son of a
Chris.
bitch. Look at this son of a
I used-
bitch.
Oh yeah.
I used to wonder if he over dieted just to come to Gold's Gym. And have you know what I mean?
I was always ready early.
You were always ready early, and you would definitely do that.
There was a
made me
lot of
really mad.
There was a lot of stuff that was going on that we never talked about, but we were all aware of it, right? All these little mind games and
No, we would never admit
never
anything
talked about it.
because
Yeah.
you're admitting a weakness. So if you came in and we would talk about you when you leave, damn, you see,
Yeah,
him,
of course.
see him
I
Yeah,
knew.
yeah.
and I knew that's what you wanted to do. But
Exactly.
one of the other
Yeah.
things that I hated about Shawn, right? I remember our first Olympia together because Shawn was there for me at the Ironman, and we ate before I left to go to the Arnold Classic. He was saying, "Man, stop eating those French fries. You're not going to be in shape." But I go, "No, it's normal for me. All I eat is chicken and French fries." And he was there for me at the Arnold Classic, along with you, of course, Chris, because you were my training partner. So I'm like, we're cool, right? We're traveling the world together. And all of a sudden, we're getting ready for the Olympia, and dude like disappears on me and don't even want to see me no more. I'm like, damn, what is wrong? I'm like, is Dame or something? And then we see him at the Olympia. I see him backstage. I'm like, dude, what's the problem? He's like, I want to beat you. And I'm like,
It's gonna work.
I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, this dude, like Satan in this dude or something?
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're my enemy. You're trying to take
You're
food
my
off
enemy."
plate." I'm like, dude, we were just hanging out a few months ago. What the hell are
You never
talking about,
understood
you know?
that. You never understood it, man. But
Oh,
that was my
No,
tactic.
And I never did. I get it now, but I never did because for me, I don't want to say, for me, I understood because I fought competitively. And I always wanted to show off. I always wanted to hurt my opponent. If I could break something on him, I wanted to do it. If I could embarrass him by doing some ungodly flamboyant kick, I wanted to do it. And I wanted to humiliate him, but it wasn't personal, right? It wasn't personal. So when I went on stage, I always understood that these men standing on each side of me are trying to achieve the same thing I can.
Mhm.
So why am I going to be upset if they win? They didn't whoop my ass. They won based on men and women in front of me picking them. So why would I be upset with this man when he's only trying to feed his family like I am? So I never got upset with them. I always thought, because we would be upset. We would talk to I don't feel this place is right. Some cats would be like mean mugging the other cat who won or talk about him bad in a magazine. You know what I mean? I'd be like, dude, if you for real, go holler at the judges. You know what I'm saying? Go take it to the person who made this happen. If you're a real man, why put this other man down? Why badmouth him in a magazine? Go holler at the judges and tell them that crap if you're a real man. You know what I'm saying? So I just never looked at it that way, but I understand the competitism because we all wanted to do it. Chris, I remember the one time, and I hated Chris for this. I think it was 95, right? It was 95 Arnold Classic. And I just came off of my car accident and I barely made it, right? No, I think it was 96, the Olympia. I looked horrible. And Chris walked up to me while we were in pose down. He put his arm around me and started posing. I'm like, you motherfucker, you. Because I knew what he was doing. He knew I was off. He was gonna highlight that. And it wasn't like he was my enemy. He's my best friend. But at that point in time on stage,
it wasn't fun for you.
Any of us, if I could hurt you on stage, if I could just make you bend over and double up, I'm gonna try to do that if it wasn't personal. But I remember that time. I remember that time when each one of you guys caught me slipping and got next to me, because the other time we would kind of feel each other's presence, stay away from each other, blah, blah, blah. But if one of us was off, guaranteed we're gonna walk. Hey man, how you doing? I'm saying, come on here. Let me see that leg. No, turn around. Yeah. Come get some of this here. So.
Hey, but check this out though. Let me tell you one quick thing is that I'm just happy that we're able to all talk and to, kind of piece together some of the puzzle pieces that was missing that we didn't know about each other or felt about. But yeah. So Flex, like I met Flex when he won the Cal in '89, right?
Oh, wow.
So you was backstage. You like he was about this wide, like this.
Skinny Kenny,
like, Kenny. This guy, right? That's Kenny.
Skinny Kenny.
He was light heavyweight.
Yeah. So I was like, I think he just went in the car.
Great biceps.
And sat in the heat in the car to try to get.
Yeah, that was my diuretic. I'd go sit in the car.
He goes
and
in
turn
the car.
the heater on. with my plastic suit.
Ghetto
on.
sauna.
Yeah. And Rico was like, yeah, this is my boy Flex, this and that. And so, like I say, so Rico kind of introduced us, like, okay, so it's Flex. So I wasn't their training partner yet. I was just getting to know Flex. But I remember he was just like, I remember one thing was really funny was that we went together to New York to do some kind of appearance or something. But Flex had his accident at this time, and at the time, I never beat Flex or never stood, got a chance to even like taste the blood of his being wounded. But I remember we were standing on the Waldorf Astoria. Remember this, Flex?
Yeah, I do.
And I said, Flex, give me a most muscular. Let's do a most muscular. We did a most muscular in the room. And I was way bigger than you, and you was like hurt and like little. You said, I'm gonna do this one time, Chris. I said, all right, this one time. You went in the hotel room, dog. I was like, yeah.
Well, you got to remember, for perspective, Kevin won the '91 Nationals. Flex turned pro by winning the '92 USA, and of course, Chris, you turned pro in the '93 USA. We all came up right along each other, and of course, I got there earlier in 1987. So. Coming up kind of almost at the same time, and you both moving to Los Angeles and me leaving LA to go back to Orange County.
Did we run you out? Did me and Chris run you out?
Remember Flex, I did the Arnold Classic after I won the Ironman, and I won, and I was going to buy a house, remember?
Yeah, I remember. I remember.
But then they started talking about Winstrol, and then you were out.
So then, so when they kept the prize money, I stayed at my dad's house to save up for the next year Arnold Classic. Of course, I didn't do the Ironman because I wanted to win the Arnold Classic. So that 91 Ironman, I sat out.
Flex won, right?
JJ Marsh won that.
No, the JJ Marsh. That's right. I was there.
Yeah, JJ won the 91 Ironman.
Flex won 93.
Yeah, I didn't even go to the Ironman when JJ won, but I went to the Arnold in 91. And then when I won that, I went on a little tour, and that's when I bought my house in Chino Hills. And I very rarely was making my way back to Gold's Gym after that.
Yeah, that's a hell of a drive. I remember when I moved out to Rolling Heights.
Rolling Heights.
Right. And I used to do it twice a day. So it's really interesting how people complain about driving and all this now. When I literally spent probably like 4 hours on the freeway.
That's the dedication.
Rolling Heights. Yeah.
No, the dedication you had to bodybuilding. Right? Yeah, you passed a million gyms on the way to Gold's.
Yeah, it was just something normal that we did. So it's really interesting how guys now complain about whatever. Oh, I got to work. Yeah, I got to go. I mean, we go and work at Roxbury all night, then go to some famous deli and eat because everybody hung out there till like 3 a.m. I would go home because I'm boring.
Yeah.
And Rico and Chris would go and play video games and then meet me at the gym the next morning. So it's just really interesting how people now
dedication.
But sometimes we go straight to the gym after playing video games because we were afraid that we're going to miss our workout.
Crazy.
That's straight up dedication right there. Well, listen, guys, since we're talking about winning.
Sorry, Kevin, we took over your show. Sorry.
No. Listen, man, this is our show. This is legendary moments. And it's awesome just listening. I mean, we could go on forever. We do got to wrap it up at some point though. But listen, I want to ask you guys this question. Chris, Shawn, I'm gonna start with you, okay? Because out of Flex and Chris, you were the first one to win an Ironman. I never did do that show, never competed in a show, but I used to always hear about the lighting at the Ironman, and that was one of the best shows to do. I mean, what was that experience for you? How many times did you actually win that show? And what was it like being on that Ironman stage?
So I did the Ironman twice. 90 was the very first year they ever had it. John Balick and Mike Nevue, the owners of Ironman magazine, decided to put this contest on in Redondo Beach. He knew about lighting because he's a photographer, John Balick. So naturally, that was the very best stage lighting, and it always was, all the way up until I think Silvio Samuel, might have won the last one back in 2005 or something, Silvio or Gustavo, not sure who. But whoever did win, of course, you were photographed in the best light. So, I mean, I think some of Flex's best pictures and Chris's are from the Ironman. Forget the Olympia. If you look at the Ironman photography, it's ridiculous how great they look because it was designed. It was designed for that. Whereas the Olympia is a production, the Arnold Classic's a production. Some of it was for television. The lighting's not the best. But in those Ironmans, those early Ironmans, and we're homeboys. They're right here. It's 30 minutes from where I live. It was our little Olympia, but it was also setting us up for that Arnold Classic. Now, mind you, there's a record in this conversation amongst all of us here. And it's not your record, Kevin, of 20 plus wins when you retired, or Flex's record of winning 4 pro shows his rookie season. It's the record that Chris owns. And Chris probably doesn't even think about it. But the Ironman set him up for that. And it's being the first guy to ever win 6 first runner-ups at the Arnold Classic. Didn't win it, but he has six first runner-ups at the Arnold, which is some kind of record, only rivaled by Jay Cutler getting 6 first runner-ups at the Olympia. But I say that to say this. Chris would use the Ironman as a precursor to go to the Arnold Classic. And someone like Flex would show up and make it hard. But he would win these Ironman contests, get to the Arnold Classic. And it's tough. Flex and Chris will tell you. From the Ironman to the Arnold, it's a tough adjustment. And when you get there, it's different judges too. And arguably, Chris should have a couple Arnold Classics to his credit. But that Ironman contest, you win it. You went to the Arnold. You were cocksure that you were going to be a front runner. And of course, I parlayed it into an Arnold Classic champion. Flex Wheeler won like 4 Arnold Classics after winning the Ironman championship. So the Ironman was very popular for us. About that.
Let me just say the first I was there at the 93 Pro Ironman, and that was the first pro show Flex ever did, and the first pro show that Paul Dillette ever did.
Right.
And Mike Nevue did the lighting for that. And when those two came out, Flex at that Arnold a week or two later was probably, one of the greatest physiques the world has ever seen. But the lighting at that Ironman stage when Flex came out, oh my God, when Paul came out, people's jaws were dropping. And I think that was the beginning when Lee Labrado was there. I think that was the first time he said
he was on the way out.
I don't know about this sport anymore. I think I'm going to.
He retired in '95. Yeah, he was done.
I think I'm going to start a supplement company or something.
Chris, coming into the Ironman, like here you are training in Venice Beach with Flex and Rico and your posse and your boys. Did you and Flex sit down and say, okay, I'm going into this when you set this one out? Or how did you guys make that? Sorry about that, guys. How did you guys make that decision? I mean, did you guys pick and choose what shows you're going to do because you were so close? How did you end up competing on stage together? And tell me about your decisions going into the Ironman, Chris. How did it feel like being on that stage and winning and competing against Flex for so many years?
The thing is, Flex, in our position, our group, Flex, like I say, Shawn, like I say, Rico was like the glue to our group, right? But Flex was more like the Michael Jackson. We used to call it. So you're the Michael Jackson of the group. He had the flashy name and the bells and the whistles with the physique and all that stuff. So it's a tough thing to overcome when you want to go and compete against each other. But I don't really recall how that went. It's just that I know we supported each other when we were going to war, whether it's and sometimes him with this show when he was going to turn pro, I was just basically like building my physique together, but I was basically having put on my energy towards him to to win his pro card, and we're doing that for each other. One of my biggest mistakes in my career is our group not being together no more. That was one of my biggest mistakes, because the way we came up, supporting each other through food or time or just giving each other advice or encouraging each other, that right there, we should have kept that.
It's hard to keep when you're competitive, though.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's
But,
other things that came through,
life started moving us around a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that was definitely I was still going to be good, but just it was a different thing than I have that same group of support.
Yeah.
As far as that, when we have our families, we have our kids, we have all this stuff start happening. But going for the show, man, it's bragging rights for us, to be the best in California, to be the best California champion. We all won the same shows as basically as a teenager, as we got in the men's division, we all won the same shows, just behind each other or in front of each other. And, then it became a situation where we all trained together, and then it's okay. The stakes were higher, and we had to try to win this show, and it was going to be basically me and Flex, and it became Dexter. I want to leave Dexter out because Dexter came into the show also, that Ironman. But it was a tough one, man, and you didn't want to lose that show, and I knew that. But I knew I had soft Flex at one point, like maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks out, and I was ahead of him in conditioning. I was like, okay, he's not. There's no way in hell he's catching me. So I just floored it all the way, because sometimes we'll be doing cardio and we locking eyes when we're doing cardio, and then we'll just look away or whatever. But it was intense, man. It was tough. It was, but like before the show, I still went up to Flex and I said, "Hey, good luck in the show, man. If I don't win, I hope you win it. And if but I'm gonna try to whip your ass for sure. But if I don't win, I hope you win."
Flex,
like
leading
that.
up to those times when you had to compete against Chris, I mean, did you rely a lot on like just your genetics, or what was going on to drive you to follow through to come out the victor? Like, what was going on your mind when you knew, wow, that's my training partner, but also I'm going to have to compete against him? Like, where did that line come where he was no longer a friend? Or could you decipher the two between? And what happened when you went on stage and backstage? Or did you still continue to train with Chris going up until the week before the show? What happened right there? What was the mindset, for you?
I think, my mindset again draws from fighting, because in school, we all fought each other and we were friends. Yet, like I said, even in practice, if I could break something on you, I'm going to do it. And I'll be the first to pick you up and drive you to the hospital. And my trainer, my mentor, like a father figure, everything to me. And all these gentlemen, I met him, I think, except you probably, Kevin, but he knows who you are, is Ty McGuire. Just a world-class fighter, way beyond my ever imagined ability of being able to fight. And he became like a father figure to me. So there'd be times where he would test me. He would call me like at 3 a.m. and say, "Let's go train." And I said, "Okay, sir." And I would just shut up and hang the phone up and get dressed and go. But it would be times where he would bring me into tears in front of hundreds of people because he would just beat me down. And I'm like, come on, man, we travel together, we work together, we bounce together, we fight together when we're on the streets. How you gonna treat me like this in front of everybody? You're supposed to like put me up on a platform as your boy, not bring me down by beating me down. But one of the things he told me later on, years after doing that, is, I'm trying to make you better. I'm trying to prepare you for life. This is life. So I come from a reality of caring about the people I train with, yet I still want to hurt them, because how else do I give them my best? How else do I honor them by giving them my absolute everything I have? That's an honor of them. So as far as Chris, now bring to that, it was never a problem. Chris was my boy. And Chris knew in his heart that if anything ever happened, I would put myself in harm's way, or possibly, do something very, very deadly to somebody to protect them. Shawn's been in that position. Rico's been in that position. Me and you, Kevin, we never had, but we always understood each other, right? And we had our private conversations. So no, it wasn't a problem. It wasn't that I had to then view them as my enemy. No, they were my buddies, so I had to go at them harder, because I know them. And as far as Chris, he pretty much knew everything about me. So it was harder for me going against Chris mentally, not physically, because he knew everything about Flex, and he knew a lot about Ken Wheeler also. A lot of people didn't know a lot about Kenny Wheeler. They only knew about Flex Wheeler because that's all I'd show them. But Chris was around me personally, so he got to see glimpses of Kenny also. But no, I was never worried about it. And I got to be honest and say something, and Chris have already said it. I don't know if you remember, but one time, I think it was either we're on camera or something, he goes, "You never thought I was good enough to beat you, huh, Flex?" And I glanced at him and I looked away, because I'm just wired differently. If I have an issue and I lock eyes with you, it's going to be hard for me not to look at you anymore. And I come from hard times on the streets. If you lock eyes with another man and it's not great feelings, it's going to be a little bit of silence, and then it's going to be, "What's up? What's up with you?" It's the wrap. Ain't nothing else to say. We're walking towards each other, and somebody's going to get ended, right? And it's not a bad thing. That's just how I grew up. So when he said that, I didn't know where he was coming from. And I looked up at him, and I looked at his eyes, and I glanced back away, because I didn't want to continue looking in his eyes. And then my next comment would be like, "What do you mean by that?" You know what I mean? But it was true, and I had to be respectful. And no, I never thought Chris would beat me. I always knew Chris was good. I always knew that Chris was a little bit undeveloped, and I was ahead of him, right? I could see how wide Chris was. I always knew Chris was wider than me. But the truth is, because he was wider than me, his chest wasn't as full as mine, because it was going to take a little bit more time to fill out that wide capacity chest, right? It's like having a car versus a diesel. It's going to take a lot longer to fill up the cargo of that diesel than it is a big car. And I knew that was Chris, but I knew he wasn't there yet. So I never feared him. And, obviously he didn't bring it up, but I'll bring it up. And, I made a huge mistake, and in 99, he got me. I slipped, and he was right there.
Got me too.
Wow.
He got me too. Shit.
Yeah. And he ended up beating me at the Ironman, and it broke me. Right? I mean, it literally broke me.
Before when
hold
you
up.
got hurt,
Hold up.
I beat you at the Olympia before that, dog.
No, you didn't.
Bullshit.
96.
Go back and check it out.
96.
Oh, you're right. You damn. 96.
96.
Yeah, that was the time that you put your arm around
96.
me on stage.
I
And I was like,
with
you
it.
fuck.
Hey, a win is a win, dog.
My point is, you beat me in 96 after me coming off my accident in 95.
No, after he was training with me, that's when he beat you.
Yeah, and everybody who beat me in 95, I didn't really come too much care, because I wasn't myself either. But my point is, no, we were hard at each other. It was respect. And, even though in 96, when he put his arm around me, it wasn't like he was trying to disrespect me. Dude, it's like I thought. If you put your ass in a ring with me, you think you're going to win? That's why I look at my buddies, everybody. Hold up, Chris. Hold up.
Kevin was in that shot too, I think.
So that's the way I looked at things as a competitor. I would stare my competitor down in the ring, even if I knew it. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't say it, but I just want you to understand my mind frame, because Rico, Shawn already, pretty much labeled me as like a lunatic, wanting to kill me. Kevin already called me out as a bully, but I just want you guys to understand my mental, whether it's cracked or not. When I fought, I would stare at the person. And in my mind, I'm waiting for them to turn around and walk out the ring. And when they didn't walk out the ring, I would literally start pumping myself up mentally, like, wow, you think you're gonna beat me? So my fear would go into anger and rage. So, with Chris, when he put his arm around me, when he put his arm around me, I knew it was a time of weakness. And I'm like, oh, dude, you got me. Are you kidding me, man? You're really gonna do me like this? So in 99, when he beat me, and I just like, Jesus, he's gonna beat me at the Ironman. The Honor Classic now. And I just knew it was no way that I was going to be able to come back. What am I going to do in a week? Remember, back then, the Honor Classic wasn't 2 weeks or 3 weeks away. Back then, the Honor Classic was the next freaking
6 days a week. 6 days later.
It's 6 days later. And I just remember sobbing, because that's just me. I'm emotional. Listen, if I fought you, chances are tears are coming out my eyes while I'm trying to put you in a coffin. It didn't mean my weakness. I'm just emotional like that. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. But I remember having to do 3 hours of cardio, and I had these massive sores in between my legs because my inner thighs was so big that they rubbed together. That's why a lot of us used to always wear tights either all the time or underneath our clothes, because our legs rubbed so much that I used to start putting talcum powder between my legs just because it was so much friction.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But anyway,
Flex.
I
want to ask you this question. Okay,
I'm just gonna finish this and I'll let you ask.
Okay.
We went on stage. I ended up being able to out Chris at the Honor Classic. He was one of the first people, out of respect, being my boy and doing battle, was the first to grab me and give me a hug. And I remember just sobbing in his arms because it's like, Jesus, it happened. But also I want to give tribute to the judges, because the majority of those judges seen us that week before, or they talked about us. And a lot of people say the judges don't judge. But they judged me. They gave me a chance to display myself, and they seen, whether I was better or not, and they judged me. So I also want to give the honor to the judges, but that's just a credit to Chris. He was the first to come over and give me a hug after he made me cry the week before. So that was just us. It wasn't personal. I didn't have to turn off a switch or on a switch. That was just me as a person. So anyway.
Chris always had a big heart. Chris, you still have a good heart. I told you last time when we had spoke how you travel out of your comfort zone here in America and go all the way around the world, and you stay. Like when I say you stay, you stay. You give those people love, man. You help them. You teach them everything that you've learned along the way, from Shawn, from Flex, from myself, or whatever in the tours. What I want to ask, this is the last question, guys, and we're gonna have to wrap it up. What I want to ask you, each and every one of you, I'm gonna start with Chris first. Chris, what year was the best Chris Cormier?
It's hard for me because the best year that I felt like, to me, you have a good preparation. Like I know people was, they were tripping out because I was flying to Vegas every weekend, getting ready for the Olympia in '99. But I'm a shy person, so a lot of people don't understand how shy I really am. So when I talk in front of people, or when I turned pro, I didn't really want to turn pro because I'm so shy. Like these people are gonna ask me to do seminars and shit. Like I don't want to do seminars because I don't want to talk. And then I just started building my confidence throughout the years. And then I started saying, okay, I'm gonna go jump on the stage and I'm gonna go and just control the crowd. I'm gonna be posing, I'm gonna be dancing, just like to get my mindset to where I wanted to go to another place mentally on stage. So I stopped going to Vegas to like 5 weeks out, and then I was honing in, and then the preparation was just so on point. That's the one when me and Flex was in the gym. We had our shirts off. We was training. We had a couple weeks to go, and then those are iconic, man. We didn't know it at the time, but we were just taking off our shirt, checking ourselves out. But it's some iconic photos and video footage that's a mainstay on the YouTube and all that stuff. I know that for a fact because everyone shows it all the time.
Millions of views.
But and then to get on stage and to be training partners, and like I find, like I was training for that show, like man, I'm gonna be in the top 3, even though I got, Shawn, I got Kevin, got all these guys to do with Nasser and all these guys. I had never beaten Shawn at this time, but I was like, man, I got to do it because this guy's been telling me I couldn't beat him the whole time that I known him. so
Yeah, buddy.
I got to beat Shawn. And so when I got up to the show, I had no cramping. I wasn't tired. I had so much energy. Me and Flex, iconically gave a big hug before. Like, that really don't happen. That was not even planned. It was just our emotion of, we finally got here. We have at the top of the sport, and we started from the bottom, and now we're here. And
what show was this, Chris?
99 Olympia.
The 99 Olympia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a different look after that, as far as more fullness, but as far as like tight waist,
that's it for you.
My routine was on point to the max. Everything was maxed out. I took top 3, and I let them have it in the nightclubs after that show too. I
great.
let it all out. Every
have
strip
it.
club, every nightclub, all around the city.
Wow. Flex, leading up to you now, I know I have that year that I thought you were just incredible. It was when you won the Arnold Classic. It was just incredible, man. I thought, wow, he's definitely going to move on to be the Mr. Olympia. So what was the year for you, Flex, that you think you hit your peak and you've never looked like that again? What show was that?
99 Grand Prix. Easily. I know a lot of people talk about, and I've done this many of times. I took what everyone thought was my best year, and I looked at photos, because we can do that now because it's all digital, right? So I know most people think the 93, like you're saying, a 93 Arnold Classic. But if you would have matched my version of 93 versus my same version of 98 Arnold Classic, the 98 version would have crushed the 93 because I was just too much, right? I was in extremely great shape and I was fuller. 93, I was borderline flat, even though I had incredible definition and everything. My symmetry pretty much covered me over, and my definition, because I was just so extremely in shape. 98 was just a unification of my fullness and my condition in 98 at the Arnold Classic. But in 99, I was just able to do something I had never been able to do. I always steered away from certain diuretics because I was scared of them. I heard that they hurt people, or some even cost them their life. So, 99 was disappointing for me. I thought I got Ronnie because Shawn was there in 98. And in 99, I think even Shawn, but most of the guys that came up to me in 99 and said, you got him, as soon as I took my clothes off, because Ronnie had beat me by, I think, 2 points. And I ended up coming in 17 pounds heavier in 99. And even though my condition wasn't spot on, just that crazy fullness and condition, I thought I had him. And as soon as I peeled, everybody like, damn, you got him. I'm like, there's no way. 2 points, I'm 17 pounds heavier. I closed that gap. I got him. And it was disappointing when I didn't, and that's when I took my medallions off. But in 99, Ronnie was one of my closest friends also. In 99 at the Grand Prix, he called me to his room and he goes, man, what are you doing? I go, what do you mean, what am I doing, man? What are you doing? He goes, no, what are you doing? What are you eating? And I told him, he goes, all right. He goes, what are you taking for a diuretic? And I said, I'm taking this. He goes, damn, man, take this. And I said, what's that? And he told me, I was like, no, man, I heard about this old boy here. This old boy's a killer. I don't want to mess with this. He goes, man, you trust me? Of course I trust you, Ron. He goes, take half. I go, all right, man. He goes, I'm telling you, man, just take half. I go, what about water? He goes, just do whatever else you're doing. Just take half. And I tell you, every time I competed, I would probably lose anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds overnight before the show. And Rico and Chris know this, because they would see me going into a show. They'd see me at press conference that Friday and my face would still be full. And come Saturday, it's like, what did you do? But I just took some old school, really, I took Aldactone. That was my boys, right? Aldactone and Aldactazone. So anyway, Ronnie gave me, this other diuretic, and I just took half of it, and I barely peed all night. I was like, God dang it. I was eating freaking spaghetti. Kevin, you were there in 99 at the Grand Prix, and Chris was too. And I just barely peed. But, as we all do, every time I get up and pee, I look in the mirror. I'm laying in bed, sleeping, touch my abs, squeeze my glutes, And I'm like, good God, man, I'm changing. But I'm not peeing. So I was freaked out. So anyway, I went on stage. And back then we used to weigh ourselves. I literally carried a scale with me everywhere I went.
Yeah,
and at the Olympia, weeks before I was 246. And, a few weeks later at the English Grand Prix, I was 256. And I didn't know it at the time, but me and Ronnie weighed the exact same weight. And we walked out on stage, man, and I looked at myself backstage. I was like, just good God. I'm like, you guys have been there before. When you're so full and hard and you do a most muscular and your body feels like it's just puking up muscle. I was like, oh my God, And I went out on stage and I handed Ronnie his ass. And I say that out of respect because Ronnie already said it on broadcast. Flex whooped my ass that night. And he goes, we were actually the same weight. It was the first time at that heavy weight. I was striated. Everywhere, and just the fullness and muscle and everything. And I contributed that my best overall condition because condition can't win a show. Symmetry can't win a show. Me and Shawn, I can't remember the guy from Turkey who used to be so super shredded, but he was damn near anorexic. It can't win a show.
Hamdullah.
Yes. But my combination of weighing 256 pounds, damn near shredded on stage was just, I don't think it would be tough for anybody to deal with that. Then, especially now, it's just
Arnold?
Huh?
Yeah.
That Arnold, that 98 Arnold you talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something to see, man. I was there for that. I was cheering you on for that. That was some crazy shit. I told you, remember in the room, I said, man, it's the best I ever saw.
The one thing that, and I know you got to ask Shawn this question afterwards, and I'll be really quick, and I know we run out of time. But one thing that hurt me the worst with Chris, we were so close at one time, and he told me later on what he was going to tell me, but when we were competing, he goes, Flex, he goes, man, I got some advice for you. He goes, you know what?
Yeah.
And he looked at me, goes, you know what? I'm not going to tell you. I go, what? He goes, I'm not going to tell you, man. I go, tell me what? He goes, no, I'm not going to tell you. And then later on, after we retired, he told me what he was going to tell me. And he goes, the advice I was going to give you, man, is like most of the time we're trying to get there and get better. You're there. Don't change nothing. Don't try to get bigger. Don't try to get sharper. Just stay where you're at.
That's right.
Most of the time as we compete, we get better. He goes, but you're there. And you got to go, how come you didn't tell me? He goes, because I wanted to beat you, man. I would have never beat you if I would have told you that.
Yeah.
If you would have stayed 220 throughout, I guarantee you would have had that title.
Yeah. Well, that's why I never gave Kevin the piece of orange backstage at the Olympia that year. I didn't want him to beat me. He didn't get the orange either, but he still beat me. Damn it. Damn it.
Leading up to the question for you, Shawn, is
when was Shawn's show? What
I've actually the rest of the champs and everything is, I think out of all of us, Shawn, you're the one that's been the most consistent out of all of us. I think every time I've seen you on stage, you've always been point on. But what show, Shawn, in your mind that you think stands out for you where that's the best Shawn Ray presentation, total package? What show was that, brother?
I mean, listen, we all peak. It's hard to peak more than once. I think we all have that moment. And obviously for me, my moment was the 87 Nationals, but the level of competition wasn't Olympian. So that moment stands out because it launched me into another stratosphere. And I brought that song current. A lot of people didn't know that Jennifer Holiday song. I'm telling you, I'm not going. They never heard that, right? But in 94, coming into that 94 Olympia, I think things were all synergistically lining up, right? So 1991, I'm 5th place in Olympia. 92, I'm 4th place. 93, I'm 3rd place. 94, going into that show, I know I got to deal with Flex. I also know I got to deal with you. Now, you were coming off of a pec tear. Flex gets in his car crash. Flex was one of the last guys I saw when he came to my apartment, all fucked up before the car, or after the car wreck, to wish me good luck on my show. I don't think you went to Atlanta, did you, Flex? You didn't even go that year in '94.
I did go. I went. And
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You came over. You came over with Etty. I remember. I think you had your BMW at my condo in Newport, right before I got ready to go to '94 Olympia.
Yeah.
You checked me out. But I geared up the whole year to do battle with Flex Wheeler because I saw what he did against Dorian Yates in '93. So then, of course, that was the same year that Dorian tore his bicep, and I decided to dust off the Jennifer Holiday song. And just when I say synergistically, everything was falling into place for me. Flex slipped on a banana pill. Dorian tore his bicep, which was inevitable. I had Brooke Burke was my girlfriend. She's coming to the show with me. It's like everything was happening, right? I pulled out the Jennifer Holiday song. I just think, and then I nailed it. I nailed it at prejudging. I nailed it because
I remember
the feeling for me, hearing from people that normally don't talk to me. Like, I don't ask people, how do you think I do? I don't run around asking the judges, what do you think I land? This shit was coming to me unfiltered and not asked for it. I literally felt like Mr. Olympia after prejudging. I still got to wait for the night show. And so I went in there cocksure and I said, take me back to 1987. I clicked my heels together and I brought that routine, brought it to, everybody was screaming. And I honestly thought when it was just me and Dorian, it was going to go my way because I just didn't hear enough good things about Dorian. Dorian wasn't this thing that he was in '93 standing next to Flex. And arguably Flex, had he been the way he was at the Arnold, would have beaten Dorian Yates that year. But, winning the Arnold Classic, coming to the Olympia, that's tough. And Flex and Chris will tell you that. And it. Dorian never had to do that. Dorian never had to peak in March and then compete in September. So Flex kind of ran out of gas a little bit by the time the Olympia came, was a little watery in '93. But by the '94 Olympia, with Flex not in the show, knowing that Dorian tore his bicep a month prior to the contest, you're coming off this pec tear situation. I got the hottest chick in the room from the Victoria's Secrets catalog coming with me. Everything was lined up, man. And after prejudging, if I had $1 for everybody that said I was going to win that night, I would have, my prize money would have been $1 million. So when it was just him and I standing there, the things I heard after prejudging, his color was messed up. His stomach was a little bloated. The bicep tear was, noticeable. My glutes were in. My cheekbones were ripped. All I got to do is do my posing routine, and I'm in the winner's circle, and then it didn't happen. And we've all been there in that second place moment, right? Like your first Olympia, Flex's first Olympia. I'm in second place. I want to be mad, but I'd never been second place before in my life either. Suddenly I joined all these other iconic people like Muhammad McWay, Albert Beckles, Rich Gaspari. The accomplishment from going from third to second was there, but in my mind, I'm like, Flex wasn't there. You had the injury. Dorian Yates was off.
Yeah.
So how good am I? I'm second, but all these things. But you can only be Mr. Olympia if you're on the stage, right? So I showed up. I did my part. Then I watched the fallout afterwards, and my status by getting second and not winning went from here to here. I was in demand. I was like, I took off like a rocket ship. You were talking about the money. That's just when I think you came out to my house somewhere around that time, whatever. But the things in the business of bodybuilding took off because now I'm number 2. Now all I got to do is just do it again. I'm not going back to the Arnold Classic in '95. Just stay the course, and we'll wind up here a year from now, and it's going to be my title. There's no question. Of course, 95 comes. I dropped down to 4th place. Nasser, I think, beat me that year. And then 96, I climbed back up into 2nd. And I think that was it. I think the best of Shawn Ray was done because we were moving into this different era where Flex was getting bigger. You were already there, and Chris was coming into his prime. It was kind of holding on, trying to hang on, but knowing that, I don't have to be I think I resolved in my mind, I don't have to be Mr. Olympia to be Shawn Ray. And that's where the caution in the weight room and the control not to mess up what got me here. I don't want to mess up what got me here by trying to get bigger to win. And I also didn't want to train harder and wind up getting hurt because people were getting hurt all around me. I got into maintenance mode, and then I started becoming more aware of, all right, how do I turn this into a profitable livelihood? How do I make money in this career? And I think I took my eye off of trying to become Mr. Olympia when I got second in 96, and I was on cruise control for the balance of my career.
You won
94, 90, huh?
You won that Olympia. I was there.
I appreciate it.
I think the
I
whole
appreciate
world
it.
agrees with that one, Shawn.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Did it change any of you guys? All you guys, when you didn't win, Kevin, for you, it was Olympia. For me, it was Olympia Dorian. And, for you, Shawn, it was Olympia. Do you think it changed something in your trajectory, in your mind? And I don't want to get too personal into it, but when we understood the business part, that possibility is not there no matter what we bring to the table. For me, it was 99. I just understood there's nothing I can do now on this stage to take this title. It's a monster of its own. And it's not the person who beat me. Did it change something in you that you just weren't willing to go through maybe that hurt, or to go that deep into the bowels of hell, knowing that even if you grabbed another freaking gem, another diamond, and came up with an even crazier physique, that it wouldn't be allowed to win on stage? Shawn, you just admitted to it that it did.
Yeah.
Did it do that for you?
Well, I mean, Joe Weider told me out of his own mouth. He said, no matter what, he goes, if I shuffle Flex Wheeler or Chris Cormier win or Shawn Ray win, I could shuffle you guys any way around. Each one of you guys could take a turn being Mr. Olympia. And he told me this on the European tour. I was like, Joe, how come I can't win? And I think he felt bad. And that's why he put me on a 67, I think it was a 64th anniversary edition of Muscle and Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
He said, it's not that you're not good enough. It's not that any of you guys are not good enough to win Mr. Olympia. And you so rightfully deserve to win the Mr. Olympia. Joe told me this. And he said, but I'm still going to make the same amount of money. If I shuffle you guys around, they're going to be the same. But if I have an international champ like Dorian, he goes, that changed the market space. And at that point, I was like, you know what? 4 times I got second, then okay, no wonder. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I experienced that with Joe.
It was like that kind of like
Broke you.
I said, you know what? I got to start looking at this as a business and marketing myself, because forget that Olympia. I'm never going to be a Mr. Olympia. And obviously it's not cut out for me. But one thing I can do is win everything else in the world. And that's what it did.
Yeah, you went and did. That's what you went and did. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I also appreciate you on stage, Kevin, because you be talking to me right in the middle of the competition, right when we're on stage posing with each other. And we having conversation. I actually had conversation with each and every one of you guys.
Yeah, man, it's great moments
on the stage, actually posing for comparison, but it was some type of encouraging something from each one of you guys. Even Shawn, my first Olympia, I remember, I'd never forget. They had me come out 7 calls in a
Times in a row. Yeah.
7 in a row. My God.
I mean,
I was so pissed.
Shawn was like, come on, man.
Chris, I was so pissed. I was yelling. I was in the audience. I was so pissed. I was yelling at the judges. That's fine. That's fine. I'm like, what the
I did 7 in a row on my ass. I had snot running out of my nose. I
remember you told me you puked and you swallowed it. I was like, damn,
threw up, swallowed the vomit.
Yeah, but we were prepared. We were prepared. If they did that today, the guys would never make it through. No way.
Yeah. Ron, we certainly have a legendary moment right here, man. I mean, this is probably never ever going to happen again on a podcast or on a show anywhere where you see just that moment in history where everybody can relate to and say, wow, that was that era, that was the best era in bodybuilding. And I certainly think that hey, you have any questions for any of us, Ron? I know you're sitting back this whole time just listening and just soaking everything in.
No,
but we could go on forever. But
I just want to say, I was privileged enough to see all of you guys come up through the ranks. Even the very first magazine I ever got was a Flex magazine in September '87. there was a pictorial of Shawn Ray, who I think at the time was a junior national champion.
I got second in junior. I was a junior world champion.
Okay, so they had like a 10-page. It was just all photos. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this guy's pretty damn great. And then a couple issues later was the coverage of the 87 Nationals. And
Yeah.
I was there to see Flex turn pro. I was there to see Chris turn pro. Kevin, I wasn't at the 91 Nationals, but just watching guys throughout the 90s, it's crazy how at the time, I don't think you can ever appreciate how special what you're part of and what you're looking at is. You need that perspective of years down the line. And
I agree.
I feel so lucky to have been able to be around that whole scene, and it's never going to be like that again. I mean, Los Angeles in the 90s, you know, the Firehouse, Gold's Gym, the beach, geez, it was something special.
Oh, yeah.
And
Fresh to go.
Ron,
yeah.
something that most people don't know is you
And
met me
Izzy's.
before all of those guys. You met me before everyone. And actually, I was honored to have ESPN Luzwick do my first 2 training videos. And actually,
American Muscle.
Yeah, American Muscle. And I don't know why Lou chose to, but he financed my 2 training videos, Hard Body and Mass Construction. And you actually wrote all the things that I was supposed to say, which I debauched all of them. But I forgot, and I want to give you credit for that. You know, we've been friends that long, and probably out of everyone, you probably watched and seen the most, you know, Kenny Wheeler, Skinny Kenny transform into Flex Wheeler and all that stuff. But, you know, I just want to thank you for your contribute to our sport, you know, for all these years. And I really don't understand your dedication, because from where you were, I would have never dedicated and been so in love with the sport, but you did. And here you are all these years later. So from Flex Wheeler as an amateur back in what, geez, 90 to all the way to now, you're still relevant in our sport. And, you know, we need guys like you. And unfortunately, you're a dying breed also. You're a dinosaur with Kevin, Shawn, and Chris up on his board. But there's not, I don't know of anyone else other than someone who's high powered like Joe or something like that. I don't know anyone else who didn't have the type of power that you did, that had the type of influence in our entire sport. So I just want to thank you, you know, for your contribute to me and helping developing me into Flex Wheeler, and just everything else you've done. I've always watched you from a distance. We've always been friends. We know about our kids growing up and in college and where they're at and everything now, but just, you know, thank you for your commitment to our sport. And I mean that because as we talk about all of this, you weren't involved in it. You were either maybe, for me, a puppet playing in the background, or then talking about us on stage. So, you know, just thank you for that dedication, because I don't think the sport would be quite the way it was without your influence.
You're welcome. And I think it's so cool that all 5 of us have been around the industry so long, and we're still all very, very vital part of the industry. Shawn's the online editor for Digital Muscle. He's very much tied into the Olympia production. Flex, still working with athletes, still part. You guys are all so integral, still relevant, which is crazy, because so many of your contemporaries, if you ask an 18, 20-year-old kid, you drop a name and they're like, me, huh, who? But if you say Flex Wheeler, if you say Chris Cormier, if you say Kevin Levrone, you say Shawn Ray, they go, oh yeah, that guy was awesome. You know, your legacy lives on, and you're all still part of the industry. I think that's so cool.
Well, Denzel Washington
cool.
made Flex and Chris famous when he was in his movie saying, give me one of those Flex Wheelers. Give me one of those
Chris
Chris
Cormier.
Cormier.
Yeah.
That's my claim to fame, John Q.
I know. Yeah,
Q.
John Q.
Hey,
Put you on the
Well,
map.
guys,
But you know,
before we
but
sign off here,
also, I wanted to say, you know, a lot of these times doing the tours and stuff like that, and going all over the world and connecting with the fans and other professionals or other legendary guys, you know, and a lot of times we did that, and I said this before, we did that to keep the sport going. And so I think a lot of these younger guys don't understand that a lot of stuff we didn't actually really want to do, but we was like, if we don't do it, what are we going to have for a check down the road? Like, this is like to keep the sport going. And we still keeping the sport going, still dedicated most of our life to this sport. And I think that should be, you know, noted.
yeah,
Great.
I think it's just been incredible sitting here, just listening to y'all talk, and it's just been so informative, man, and so passionate and so much love. Even though, you know, we all competed against one another, but you still feel that love continue, you know, and we're at different walks of our lives now with kids and families and businesses and stuff that we're doing. But it just goes to show, you know, I mean, bodybuilding has done so much. It's a universal language. Sometimes you don't even have to speak, and you just pick up, you know, you just pick up and learn so much. And I've learned I learned a lot from each and every one of you guys individually. You know, Flex, you touched me in ways. We had our conversations overseas and everything when we were having those moments, you know, on the tours. And Chris, same thing with you and me, man. You know, you've told me some things that I was like, wow, kind of like blew me away, you know, and I had no idea that I had that much of an influence in your life.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'll let you know how much I appreciate you. And I talk to you about, you know, that touch you have on people, you know, and that there's a side to you that, you know, just passionate and so caring, and you get involved, you give them a piece of who you are, you know. And Shawn, you raised the bar and you kept the bar there, and you've always had a good name in the sport. And I think us, you know, Chris, and I can speak for Flex, you know, we always wanted to be that piece of Shawn Ray, you know,
For
because
sure.
he
For
did,
sure.
you know. I
For
remember
sure.
coming to your house,
100%.
Shawn, and I wanted to have a house like yours. I built my house to look like yours, the garage floor, down to the marble, down to getting a piano. You're the reason why I even started playing the piano. So I want to thank you, man. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming on the MD Levrone Report and edging out, you know, that time in your days away from your family to do this. And I also want to say thanks to Ron. Thank you, brother, for applying the platform through you know, muscular development with Steve Blackman. Steve's been there for each and every one of us. So I want to say thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Ron. I think that's it, man. I think we're wrapping up a great one right here.
Wow.
Hey, man,
All right.
It's been awesome, guys.
Thank you
Don't
all.
forget my C3 TV is dedicated to the 90s and the old school bodybuilding. So
Yeah,
check
boy.
Right.
All right, man.
Yep.
We'll catch you guys.
All
Hey, I'll
right,
see you in
guys.
Vegas. I'll see you guys this weekend in Vegas at Flex Lewis's Dragon's Lair grand opening
Hey,
Saturday.
I'll see you guys there. I'll be there.
All right,
Yeah,
Las
there.
Vegas.
All
All right, bro. Thanks,
Welcome,
Kevin. Thanks,
I'm
Ron.
Kevin
You
Levrone
guys are
signing
my home
off.
next week.
MD Levrone Report with the GOATs, the greatest of all time. Chris Cormier, Flex Wheeler, and Shawn Ray. Peace.
Hey,
We're out of here,
Sig, throw
baby.
them seeds up.
Out. Ron, this is the 6th episode, correct?
7.
Oh, wow.
Anytime you're ready, Kevin.
All right, welcome to the 7th episode of Levrone MD. Wrong thing. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to the 7th episode of Levrone's.
It's just call it the Levrone Report.
Yeah. There you go.
Levrone Report.
Welcome to the 7th episode of MD's
Let's really report.
Yeah.